And welcome to my YouTube tutorial on how to make a word jumble game in Java using C++. Actually, it is in C++. Due to some certain circumstances, I cannot show you a full-length tutorial on how to make a new project, but luckily I've done this in Pt.1, which is a great compiler. Use it for all my projects from time to time. But usually what you would do in Visual Studio, which I recommend, is first you would go to a new file project in Visual Studio 2010 or any year you choose, and it's going to be a new console application. Let's call it Word Jumble Game. Okay, then you would click OK and Next and make sure to check an empty project, because obviously you're going to need to have some source files, and finish that, and let's add a CPP file, which would be in the source file filter on the right hand side, or depending on where your extensions are. And select the CPP file and name this one main.cpp. And click Add Now, and let's include all the header files we need in our program application, starting with input output, which is over here, stream, and input and output text into the window, and then you're going to add the string class that is used to manage our string data. Next, you're going to include the cstd lib header file, and lastly the ctime header file. These two allow us to work with random numbers and seed the random number generator. Next, write the following using namespace std to help things look nice in perspective. Right here is where we're starting now. So first thing you would do is define a namespace, which is a name container we can create to hold specific code. In this instance, we're going to make one to hold all of our words and all of our hints within the game. To define a namespace, you would type namespace, let's call it Jumble, in lowercase, and make sure you leave an open and close curly brackets. Now within the namespace, we can input all the data we need for Word Jumble Game. First thing we can do is make an array that holds all of our words that we can guess. I'm going to input constant string, and be sure you call it words and put open and close brackets and put in 4. Let's say equal to leave a line, and input open and curly braces, and don't forget to use your semicolon. Those are very important. My teacher at Cal Poly once told me never forget your curly braces, and then I came to Chafee Community and Tracy also emphasized using curly braces. So that's a pretty big step. So far we have declared a string array of 4 elements. So that means we can have 4 elements, and with the constant keyword we cannot change these in the string array, which is right because we don't want to change the words with the execution of the program. So within the brackets, let's input the words we want to use. Computer science, comma, computer, comma, software, comma, and finally programming. With these 4, we now need some obvious hints in case the user is having a hard time. Yeah, right. So meow, we do the same thing and make a string array of 4 elements and put a constant as a keyword, so that way we don't change the constants of the string. And execution time input. Right here you would put constant string and call this array hints followed by an open and close brackets, and input 4 to note. Sorry, lost my place of thought. Pardon me. But where we left off was now we need some obvious hints in case the user is having a hard time. So meow, we do the same thing and we make a string array of 4 elements and put a constant as a keyword, so that way we don't change the contents of the string in execution. And then we put in time input constant string and call this array hints followed by open and close brackets, and input 4 to note 4 elements, as well as equal to leave a line opened and close curly braces and a semicolon. Now we can input a hint for each of our words. And here there are hints for the following words listed above. Notice that we do not need a comma at the end of the last element in the array, simply because it is the last element. Now that concludes our namespace, as we defined our 4 words and 4 hints now. We need to generate the word randomly. Therefore, we need to use the same index of our words as we do for our hints, as we can easily implement that in our class. Next, let's create the interface of our word jumble class. Meow input class word jumble. Let's block it out with open and close curly braces, followed by a semicolon, and define a public block. Meow, the public methods are the constructor function called word jumble, no parameters. Second method is a functionality for making the jumbled word itself, input void jumble word, and input a word to jumble. So put string to make it a reference by inputting an ampersand symbol and call it W for word. And after we can put a void introduce. This is the introduce method, which in layman's terms means it will introduce the game to the player and output some text to the console. Meow, create a check guess method by typing a bool check guess, and within our parentheses we pass in a string reference and call it G for guess. This will check if our guess is right or wrong in terms of matching the words we have to guess, and if it is true, the application will end, and if it is false, the application loop will continue. Now the last method is for turn type void call run. This method will implement our game loop and get everything up and running, and you can say the run container that uses these above methods and constructs the game within itself. Now all we need to do is call upon the run method just by cleaning things up a bit. And let me just scroll down a little bit so that way we know where we're at, which is right here around this point. And meow, I'm going to start around the private section so that way we know what we're doing with our privates. Haha, if you know what I mean. Meow, let's make a private block and input int tries. This will help with how many guesses we have made, and put index. The index holds the random number generator between 0 and 3, such that we can store the corresponding words and hints. Meow, the next string is called word, and this will hold the word we need to guess. And let's put string and hints in this. We'll store the corresponding hint that goes with our word. Using another string we need is our jumbled word, and this stores words but in a different order. And now the last private data member is type called string called guess. This would hold our guess we input to the console, and that is our interface declared for the word jumble game. Now let's define the constructor and block out all our methods and create a main function. So meow, we input a word jumble colon, the scope resolution of the operator word jumble, the constructor function, open and close parentheses again, and again we're going to create an initializer listing to initialize all of the private data members, that it's private data members as well as we have no public data members. As you can see, I have a speech written, but that is nonetheless the point. Now let's input a colon to initialize a list that leaves a backspace such that the colon, excuse me, getting a little sick, is at the far left hand side of the screen, and push tab to organize the code and start to initialize all the data members. First one is tries open and close parentheses and put 0 and that is going to get you to start our game with 0 tries. Now the index pass is called a random modulus 4. This will generate a random value between 0 and 3. In this case,